Secondary break, all things Carolina Tar Heels. Special day. I want to start by saying happy birthday to Mr. Michael Jordan. We are a day late, but, we had to hit the reserves. I got my main man and a member of the UNC men's basketball program, Ashley Warwick, tapping in for my two-guard, Mr. Zach Talitsky. I'm Graham Bunn, former D1 college point guard, European player, diehard Tar Heel. What's up, man? Thanks for tapping in. And we called in the reserves, man. We got a former player in here.
Man, former JV player. You need to be specific. So, but I got to go out there on the Dean Dome floor and run around a little bit and have a good time. But hope Zach starts feeling better, though. I'm surprised he didn't want to put his flu game hat on and try to show up and see if he can pull a Jordan just in honor of Jordan's birthday, right?
Yeah, you guys can handle that. But we're excited to have you, man. It's been a great season. Obviously, Carolina takes down Virginia Tech at home. You were at the game, 96-81. They advanced to 12-3 in the conference, still a half a game ahead of Duke. 20-6 overall. Anytime you can get 20 wins in a season, I think that's a great benchmark. So congratulations to the Hills. What was it like being in the building, man?
Man, it was great. I tell you, the Saturday games are just the building fills up before the game. There's usually being the NBA All-Star game. There's a lot of NBA guys that are on break. A lot of the former players are there that have retired but are still kind of coming back for games. So the atmosphere, you're on campus. I mean, it can't be better. I was at the Clemson game a couple weeks ago, and I'll tell you the atmosphere was totally different because all the fans were still had the hangover from the Duke game.
Sure.
Everybody gets there late because it's a 7:00 game and the traffic's bad. So the building was jumping from the start, and then in Carolina, I thought they played really well. I thought it was a good game. I rewatched it on TV just a little bit ago and just saw it. I think they came away. My impression watching the game was they played well. And then after rewatching it, or after being there, excuse me. So it was fun though. Good atmosphere.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? You and I talked about this, and anybody watching this, it's almost, it's not two different games, but you walk away with a different perspective being in the building and then watching the broadcast. Because I feel like watching the broadcast, you can kind of take in more of the X's and O's of the game. Whereas when you're in the building, it's more about the energy, the runs, how the team is feeling, momentum, those kind of things. Like there's two different parallels between being in the building for a game and then watching it on television. I haven't made it to a game this year. I'm hoping to make it to the ACC tournament, and I hope this is a great year to go for the ACC tournament. But when you watched it back from the broadcast, anything that you took away that you didn't take away from being in the building?
It was a weird feeling at the game. Me and you were texting back and forth on some of the stuff during the game. It's like I kept thinking, we're getting ready to blow this out. We're going to push it to 20, and then it's going to be kind of an easy game. But we never really could push it over that 10, 12 mark. And then they bring it back down to 7 or 8. So I guess watching it today, it was actually more of a complete win. We were ahead. There was never really much doubt versus when you were there, just the emotion of every missed shot or every make shot. You're feeling it man, it's a close game. I don't know what's going on. You just get this weird feeling, but no, they definitely, I thought the second half defense was not as good as the first. I thought we were letting them get in the paint quite a bit more. I thought the first half defense was pretty good. I thought they just hit some tough shots. So I noticed that rewatching the game. So I don't know what were your thoughts on the defense? Because I think that's the biggest thing that we're going to have to kind of take to the next level here in this last part of the season if we want to get back to where we were on that win streak.
Yeah, I think a lot has been made about the defense this year, and as it should be. It's cliche, and I think it's a little less true today than it was 20 years ago about defense wins championships. I think the elevation of the three-point line and some of the defensive rules like hand checking and freedom of motion, I think kind of handicaps the defense. So making shots, I think, is a premium now. And so I'm a little 50-50. I thought the defense was good last night or yesterday. I think people don't give Virginia Tech enough credit for being a good team. That's an experienced team.
True.
That backcourt won the ACC title 2 years ago, and Couture was a lot of people don't remember this. He was the MVP of that championship game, and they beat us and Duke back to back. And so I don't think we'd beaten that program in over a year. So, kudos to the boys kind of getting back to their feet, getting back to their ways, playing what I thought was a complete game, making some shots. And I thought it was a nice balance between offensive efficiency. I think we only had, 9 turnovers? And in my head, the magic number is 13. If we can stay underneath 13 turnovers, I think we put ourselves in a great position to win. We haven't shot it great from 3. Yesterday, I think we shot 33%, but we held them under 30. I think they were something like
Right.
26. And we
27.
out-rebounded
Yep.
them. Yeah, and
Yep.
we out-rebounded them. So I didn't play. I wasn't a big. So my knowledge or experience about if we win the game of the glass is a little bit limited, but I hear Hubert preach it all the time. So I'm on board with that. He wants to win the glass. He wants to win the battle of the paint and the free throw line. I'm with it. I've always kind of sided on I would like us to make open shots. And so there's been times, and I've been kind of heavy on Cormac Ryan, where he hasn't necessarily found his open shots. And when he doesn't make those open shots, I think it changes the way they defend Baycott. They couldn't do that yesterday. And obviously Baycott had a man's game. So, I'm on the fence. I think it's a 50-50 split, but I didn't think they got a lot of easy looks. I mean, they got some. It's a game. And I thought Hubert did a great job of calling timeout. There was like one back-to-back where they got an open look in the 3 for Tyler Nickel. He knocked it down. Then they got another like paint touch and easy layup, and he called timeout and was like, all right, we're going to address this. They're going to make hard shots, and we'll lose with hard shots, but they're not going to make easy shots. Like, we're going to change that.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to contradict myself here, actually, after hearing you say that. But I think with
Sure.
Padula and Couture, I mean, I think what were they 0 for 5, and then 1 for 6 was Couture from the 3-point line. So, and then
Yeah.
if you look at the guys that did score for them, you got MJ Collins, averages 6, scored 18.
Right.
Petit averages 6, scores 15. So I think we got back to what we talked about, that we do well on defense, and we run the
Yeah.
scout. So if you work the scouting report and you make guys score that don't usually score, and make sure the guys that are going out and getting 20 every other night and they're only getting 10 or 11 and taking 15, 16 shots to get, that's how you
Yeah.
win, I think, in college basketball, when you don't have just a lockdown defender at every position, which is not what we have. We don't
Right.
even have what I would call that stopper like we've had in the past with Leaky, for 5
Yeah.
years. So I think this team has to play really good team defense. And I think they have to basically put guys that aren't used to scoring in the spots that they're going to have to score from. And then it ultimately, they're players too. They have scholarships too. They have coaches too, right? So if
Right.
they make those shots, like that first 3 that guy made, it was a hand all in his face.
Yeah, and he's what is he, 26%? He made a jab
26%.
step pull up. Yeah, come on. You
Yeah,
live with
right.
that. Like, you live with that.
Exactly. Yeah. But it was interesting because like the first 2 plays, I think we made turnovers on offense. The guy makes a
We did.
jab 3. They got to run out. And they're like, we're down 5-0. And everybody, all the fans, at least, we all feel the sky is falling because we've had 2 weeks and we've gone 2 and 3. But
Right.
I really think we're probably a couple of plays in each one of those games from being, 4 and 1 or even 5-0. So I think
Agreed.
but I think Baycott was a man. I mean, like back to kind of the Baycott that he was in the Final Four
Mhm.
run, in
Yeah.
that year, a couple years ago, and he was so active. I think when he is at his best, to me, is
Mhm.
not when they're feeding him on the block and he just kind of holds it and then makes a move. He's at his best when he's running off of a kind of a screen and roll, or he's kind of making a move and he's kind of going back to the basket. As he gets
Mhm.
moving, guys just can't handle the size that he has. If he's got
Mhm.
to make a move off the block or sometime in the paint, it gives time for a double team to come. He's not going to elevate over a double team and score. That's not the player he is.
Yeah.
And it also, I think that just if he can continue what he's done over the last few games and kind of just stay active and take those opportunities, and then when they sent the double in the middle of the second half and kind of changed their defense, he was
Mhm.
hitting guys with really good pass. I think he hit Cormac. Cormac shot one from about 28 feet with about
Yeah.
3 minutes left, and it was off the double team on Baycott. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think Baycott, and I mean this like, I love Baycott. Baycott came to the program and stuck with the program, whether he had to or not. He's been with the program through some tough times, and so I love him. If I was in town, I'd buy a Mondo burger just to support him. But I think whenever he is one, I think he gives us a lot defensively that a lot of teams do not have in an age where, college basketball is spaced out. A lot of people play small ball. Baycott's one of the guys, and I think there's maybe 5 or 6, and I could be wrong, in the nation that can play anybody head up down on the block. Like you don't have to send a double for Baycott. Hunter Dickinson comes to mind if we were to match up with Kansas. I feel like that's a wash. Hey, you guys go at it. We don't have to change our defensive program to send help. And I think he doesn't get enough credit for the defensive side of the ball that he's kind of anchored things for us. But offensively, when he gets a little something going outside of, the putbacks or dunks, like that little right shoulder, left kind of push / jump hook, when he gets that going and he starts to feel good about himself, then he gets the spin, reverse, and he's always had the left shoulder off the window. I just feel like people have to send a double. And then if our guys are shooting well, it's a wrap. I feel like it's plug and play, and we end up winning. And that was the case yesterday. He was really efficient. I thought he did well when they adjusted, just like you said. And when he's rolling, and then our shooters are making a decent amount. I mean, we only shot 33%. It's not like we lit the world on fire, but we made enough to keep them honest. And Baycott 8. So, I don't think it's rocket science, and usually good teams don't need rocket science to win games. And I thought we looked great yesterday. It was relieving because it's been kind of a confusing month. I didn't know what to make of the team, and one game doesn't change things. So I'm still, I think this week off is going to pay high dividends. We go to Charlottesville, which is an insanely hard place to play, but a week to prepare is a nice luxury to have for the guys. What do you think?
Oh, I totally. Yeah, especially playing against Virginia because it's the only time you're going to play against a team that plays that way. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
every possession when you're on offense is going to be it's basically a fight. You're fighting
Yeah.
through to get even set your screens. You're fighting to run your sets. They're not going
Mhm.
to give you an inch, And credit to Tony Bennett because I saw them play earlier in the year, and I really didn't. I was like, this will be the year that Virginia will be in the kind of middle of the ACC. They're not going to make the
Yeah.
tournament, but he runs his stuff, and puts his system in, and you see guys that go there and maybe leave, transfer after a year, but then the guys that stick around, he makes them into solid players in his system. So,
Man.
it's going to be a fight. I mean, honestly, if we go up there and lose, I don't think we need to have a sky is falling kind of mentality. I think,
No. Yeah.
yeah, I think we can go up there and play well. And they just kind of beat us in their home floor and play better. And I still think that it doesn't mean that by any means that we don't have a chance of winning the ACC. It definitely uphill battle. I think if we lose the ACC at the end of the season, I think we'll look back at that Georgia Tech game and see
Oh
where they
yeah.
are in the standings and say, hey, losing to Clemson, pretty good team, and they were pretty good that
Yeah.
night. And we played 15 minutes in the first half. We didn't play the first 5, so we
Right.
spotted them 5 minutes. You're going to lose to a good team.
Mhm.
And Syracuse is Syracuse. Again, I mean, I think we're a better team than them, but we weren't 40 points better. I was at the Syracuse game too. They quit. I mean, and that's why we won by
Yeah.
40.
Right.
5 minutes in the second half, they quit. Judah Mintz was on the bench for 10 minutes of the second half. So
Yeah.
that was a representative of who they were. But back to UVA, I think just the chance to one, I think really just having the days off that we're going to have this week. I think they said they're going to do a run and shoot on, I think, Monday. Today is a day off. They'll
Mhm.
do a big kind of practice based on us. So we'll do a big self scout, I would think, kind of look at, how other teams are playing us in general, not focus on UVA until Thursday or Friday. And then we can work it on some of these things, hopefully zone, because I think that's one thing that's been our Achilles heel so far. If you look at
Mhm.
this kind of, I wouldn't call it a losing streak, but this stretch, we really
Right.
struggled against zone. Clemson threw a zone against us. We
Mhm.
just don't look great against it. Syracuse played zone almost the whole time, and we did some good things, but not enough good things to get a win on a night when they were just shooting really well and our defense wasn't playing as well. So we
Yeah.
won't see zone against UVA. They're going to play the pack line, and
Correct.
from playing against it, it's a tough defense
Mhm.
to play against. You're going to have to
Mhm.
make tough shots. You're going to have to defend to make sure that you don't let them get 6, 8, 10 points ahead because then
Yeah.
you're just it's so draining to have to play from behind against the UVA, and that's what we
Yeah.
did for like this last decade. Outside of a couple of games, is just play them from behind, and then by the time we got to the end of the game when we made our little run, we were just gassed. So,
Yeah. I mean, they have a difficult schedule. Now, again, Monday, they got to go to Virginia Tech. They got us at home. They got to go to Boston College, and they got to go to Duke. So, they've got
Yeah.
their work cut out for them as well. And there's no such thing as an easy game in the ACC. We've learned that. But I'm with you. I honestly do think the ACC regular season is going to be decided next Saturday, and I hate to put that kind of pressure on it, but I think if we take that game, I think that we're in good shape to win the ACC. I do think we're a lock for, and it might already be mathematically proven. I don't think it is, but we're a lock for the double bye, which is massive when it comes to the ACC tournament. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think you go to Virginia. You go to Virginia, and if we lose, the sky's definitely not falling. That's a great team. I think that's a team that gets out of the first weekend in the NCAA tournament. Tony Bennett is an unbelievable coach. I saw a crazy stat. I'm going to try to pull this up. Not too long ago, where only 3 coaches in ACC history have had 13 consecutive. Let's see, where is that? It was like Coach K, Dean Smith, and Tony Bennett. Like Tony Bennett achieved some win record for
Yeah.
consecutive ACC regular seasons with 13 wins or something like that. And so it just kind of goes to show you that he is an incredible coach. So I don't think losing to Virginia at Virginia is indicative that, oh man, we're just not any good. You know what I mean? I think that's a very tough place to play.
Yeah, I think that I disagree with you on. I think that even if we win at UVA next weekend, I think that that last
Mhm.
game at Duke is going to what it's going to come down to. Because I think even if Duke, let's say we drop a game, and then Duke kind of wins out, we still have a chance if we could beat Duke at Duke to have the tiebreaker on them.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to come down to that last weekend because I think UVA's got a tough schedule. I think they're going to lose again. Maybe even if we were to lose to them, I think they lose 1 or 2 more games. They play too close. They don't
Yeah.
have that. What was it, Tyler Guy and who was
Yeah.
they don't have those type players on this team. I mean, Beekman's good. Don't get me wrong, but
Beekman's great. Yeah.
they don't have 2 or 3 guys around that if they have one of those, like, look, I mean, they almost lost to Wake's a pretty good team too, but they almost lost to Wake
Yeah.
yesterday. So,
Mhm.
they're not going to have many games where they're going to run out and beat people 85 to 60. So their margin for error, I guess, is in some
Is
ways is a
low.
little tighter. So they run against a team, and the guy just starts throwing in threes like crazy.
Well, like
Um,
Pittsburgh, the
yeah,
Henson kid
yeah,
was just on fire from 3, and they win there. I mean, Pittsburgh's crazy. They're coming on. They've got some big wins at Duke, at UVA. So good on them. All right, here's the stat.
yeah.
Only 3 basketball coaches have achieved 13 straight winning seasons in the ACC: Dean Smith, Coach K, and Tony Bennett. Like that's pretty impressive. That's impressive company to be in. So good on
Yeah,
UVA, and it's going to be an interesting week.
Yeah, Roy didn't
Roy
even
never
do
did
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
which
and he obviously had a tremendous run too. So
yeah, he was
no,
good.
I have a ton of respect for that. And honestly, in this day and age of basketball, I mean, I don't know UVA's program. I doubt they have a ton of NIL money that they're floating out there. I mean, he does it through the team approach and kind of building his team year over year. And I don't know the inside of what goes on, but it does seem like he does things the right way and is well respected. So um,
Yeah,
I think that I'd love to see into what 13 years I think you said was the stat. So that
yeah.
Hubert Davis had a stat like that too. So
God, I would
that would
love it.
be
I would
yeah,
love
that
it.
would be great. So, but I mean that is too another point. I mean, think about how exciting this year is. I mean, I remember being at the Syracuse game 2 years ago, and Caleb Love hits a 30 footer to put it into overtime. If he doesn't hit that, there's a decent chance we probably go into Duke looking at it like not even having a chance to make the NCAA tournament because that was not a
Yeah,
great ACC season for us. So, that was only what a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, and we in the last
yeah,
year we don't even want to talk about, but
yeah,
we're in a good place. I feel like with the recruiting class coming in, and it's just the building's full. They're starting to talk about the renovations to the Dean Dome again, or are they going to build a new arena? And that had kind of gone away because the last 4 or 5 years we just haven't been the typical Carolina
yeah,
basketball level. So,
yeah. It's been
and
tough.
then back to Baycott, he's such a great representative of the university. So I really hope they they continue where they're going because he deserves it. I mean, he stuck around for
Yeah.
some low times, and I'm sure
Yeah.
people were putting money in front of him to go other places. And so, I
Sure.
mean, kudos to that kid because he's a great, great student, great recruiter for the program. I mean, he does all those things that, some of guys just aren't going to be willing to do. They just focus on them. But Baycot's willing to go and show up at some of these events for alumni and,
Mhm.
prospective recruits. I mean, you've done it. You've been there on those weekends. You play a really tough
Yeah.
game, and then you got to go and host a recruit for the rest of the day. And, it's part
Yeah.
of the gig if you want to be a big time program, but not everybody participates in that, as you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're a Baycott ankle injury away from another national title too. So,
Great point. Yep.
it's difficult and those things happen, but that's how important Baycott, I think, has been to the program. So I'm all with you. All right, we're gonna end this on one thing: red pill, blue pill. You ever seen those memes where it's like, oh, you could take one of these, one of each. If you had to choose anything that you felt like, oh, I need this for the success of the team to happen, and I'll give you an example. For me, I've just wanted Carmack Ryan's shooting to come regress back to the mean of what he's been his entire career because he's getting great looks. I don't know if he's ever played a season in his life where he's getting the kind of looks that he's getting. Kick out threes, feet set, shoulders forward. Completely, I mean, maybe a closeout, but like he's been creating or he's been able to benefit from other people creating shots for him. Where at Notre Dame, like he was kind of the guy, they're running sets for him. He was at the top of the scouting list. For me,
Right.
if we could get 35 to maybe 36% on threes moving forward. And even if you take out the beginning of the season, if he could shoot 38% from three moving forward from this day forth, I feel like on my wish list, we would be an incredibly difficult program to beat coming down the stretch. If you had one thing that you would want from the team, what would it be?
Man, that's a great question. I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to use that same example because I mean you already
Sure.
used it. But I think I think you have to find that kind of third or fourth option
Yeah.
because people, as we play the better teams, they're going to make Baycott. I mean, I'm not saying they'll take him away, but they're not going to let him just
Sure.
dominate the way Virginia Tech played
Yeah.
yesterday. And Davis, you've already seen teams kind of adjust and make him take shots from different parts of the, just make him work harder for what he's getting. To his credit, yesterday after I rewatched the game, man, he is definitely just not forcing things. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
that he was taking a step back or missing shots. He just kind of waited till his shots came, and I think he ended up with 20 or 22 yesterday
Yeah.
on what you would
Six
consider
to
a quiet day.
13. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, quiet
So
day, quiet day. Well, I think this
yeah,
week is gonna benefit him more than anyone. I think with Trimble
yeah,
being out, him having to pick up the slack defensively, I just think that he's kind of had a little bit more tread on the tire than they expected. So hopefully, I mean, yesterday's the first game in a while that I felt like he hit a bunch of runners. Like in the beginning of the season, that floater off of the 3-point line, because people are running him off the 3-point line. The
right.
counter for him has been, I'm going to put it on the floor. He's a smaller guard, so getting all the way to the rim is not necessarily the highest percentage shot for him. He's got a dangerous floater and runner, and I felt like he hit a few of them yesterday. And those two counters, I was a counter guy. It was either get you close so I can kind of try to get around you. I wasn't the quickest, but I had to bring you in close because I was a decent shooter. RJ's a lethal shooter. And when he's got that runner going, I feel like he's really hard to guard. So I think this week will allow him to maybe get his legs back. And then we'll see, he's definitely not had the efficiency in the last month that he did to start the season. I think we'll see him kind of get back to what we saw in the beginning.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that people underscore, as fans, we just don't think about all the travel. I mean, you know this because you
Yeah.
did it, but the typical travel is Carolina's going to practice the day before a game, and then they're going to leave after practice, fly up to Syracuse or fly down to Miami, spend the night
Hmm.
in a hotel. They're going to wake up the next morning. They're going to work with the tutors, do some of their classwork. They're going to do shoot around. They're going to do team meal. They're going to play a 7 o'clock or a 9 o'clock game. Well, they go back to the airport that night and get on the
Yeah.
plane. So that means that they're leaving Syracuse on Tuesday night last week, probably past midnight. That's a 2-hour flight. By the time they're actually getting back to their apartments or their rooms, it's like 4 a.m. So we've
Yeah.
been doing that over this last probably 3 or 4 weeks. And even though we're only playing 2 games a week, it's not the NBA. level travel, but still, these are still college kids. Like the NBA,
Yeah.
that's their job. That's all they have to
Right.
do. And
Mhm.
they do have to go to class. They do have to meet with their tutors and, make up for work that they're already missing because it's, they're traveling for games. So I think they all looked a little tired. I think like we texted yesterday, it looked like Davis was just a little, he didn't look, not quick. He
Right.
just didn't look as quick. Right.
Sure.
So, but back to your question, I think just to use something different. Well, the other thing on the Ryan, I think it can happen. I think we've been talking about. I think that switch can turn. I know it's just
Yeah.
been kind of,
Agreed.
and I think you're starting to see it because people forget again. Manic shot kind of in the maybe low to mid 30s from the 3-point line most of that season, and then he caught fire at the end of the season and started shooting in the 40s, which is an
Yeah.
insane mark for a 6'11" kid.
I
So
mean,
I think
Carmack's
Ryan,
like 10 of his last 21 right now over the last 2 games, I believe.
yeah,
So
yeah, and
he's hit a nice stretch.
he shot over 40% his sophomore year, I think, in Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So I think some of it is, like you said, just adjusting to the different types of shots he's getting. I think
Mhm.
in Notre Dame, he was probably getting a lot more swing passes or, they're running stuff for him. That's not going to
Mhm.
happen at UNC just because you've got Davis and you got Baycott. So his shots are coming from, this is my hope at least. His shots are coming from
Sure.
places now that he's getting more and more comfortable with. So now he's, and I like the way he kind of took it and shot fake, took it to the basket yesterday. There was the first half, he went in there, created something. He missed the shot, but Ingram was right there to dunk the rebound. Second half, he goes in there, shot fakes a couple times in the lane, and gets the guy to foul him and gets to the free throw line, gets 2 free throws. So I
Yeah.
think yours is a definite. I don't know what the red or the blue pill, which one is which, but I definitely think that's something. If we could get that to happen,
Yeah.
you're talking about a Final Four run, and who knows what happens. But I
Right.
think the thing that I would throw out there that we hadn't really talked about is I think if we could get the bench to be just kind of take that next step up because I think right
Mhm.
now with Trimble back, he is a true 6 man. He's going to be the first
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
off the bench. You can put him
Agreed.
in for 3, even 4 guys in that starting lineup, depending on how you rotate the positions after he goes in. I think what you're getting out of him, and it's going to be, a big positive right now. If we can get a 7th and maybe 8th from Washington and excuse me,
Withers.
Withers.
Yeah.
I think they're both capable of doing it. It's just they've been
Mhm.
kind of up and down this season, and you never know. Sometimes guys have some injuries you don't know about, or other
Right.
things. I think if those guys could step up and be in start giving some more minutes, so that Baycott stays around the 30 mark. I think he played 30 yesterday, and he looked
Mhm.
fresh every time he was in there.
Yeah.
Davis, I think, was still around that 38 mark, which is just too high. Like we've got
Yeah.
to get another 7th, 8th guy in the rotation, and then you get the longer timeouts once you get into the tournament. So you
Yeah.
don't need 9, 10 guys, but you
Mhm.
needed a 7th or an even an 8th, and I think we've got the guys. It's just a matter of if it's going to kind of come together for them. But they're both very talented players.
Yeah. I also want to give a shout out just because I would hate myself if I didn't do this. Harrison Ingram had like 12 and 17 yesterday.
he only,
I think he's leading the conference in rebounds, which I just got to give him credit. I love that kid, man. He's
I just,
amazing.
I know. I can't believe we went. We're 30 minutes in, and we're just talking about Ingram. I mean, the first
Yeah.
half was just amazing. I think I looked at the big. They got the big video boards in the corner. I'm like, how
Yeah.
does he have 12 rebounds? I don't even know if we played 5 minutes of game time. He's got 12 rebounds. I mean, the guy is
Yeah.
such a beast, and just I love his just attitude. I mean, he just every time you look at him, like he's smiling.
Yeah.
Anytime somebody tries to come over and beef with Baycott, push on back, he's sticking his chest into him. Like, hey, he is definitely the straw that stirs the drink in that way
Yeah.
on this team. Like he's the guy that I think kind of keeps him up, keeps him fresh, and so man, I'm so glad. I hope he, I want the best for him. If he needs to go to the league after this, great. I
Mhm.
hope he goes. But man, I'd love to have him
Yeah. Not me.
as
I hope
many
he stays.
yeah, as many more years as he can stay. Man, I love all these guys. I mean, they are a really fun team to watch. And
Mhm.
just going back to your first question, I mean, I think that for the first time in a while, just the whole fan base and the
Mhm.
alumni and everybody is just super excited about the group of kids we have. And that's
Yeah.
not a slight to anybody that we didn't
Of
have,
course. No, of
but
course.
or have had before, but it's just there is an excitement. It's not just because we're better this year. It's because this is a team that's really fun to watch. I think they go back to kind of the teams that we've had, that like the Hansbrough freshman year was like a really fun team to watch because nobody expected anything after we won the '05 national championship, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, the '05 team, that because we had the struggle with the Doherty years, and then Boyd Williams comes in. I mean, that was a really fun team. And then some of those teams back in the, Dean Smith time. I mean, I'm going way back now, but just the George Lynch, players like that. Those are the kind of players that UNC alumni are the only ones that, and fans are the only ones that remember, right?
Brian Reese. Yeah.
Yeah, right. We remember all these guys that, like, other schools are like, I don't know who played for us 2 years ago,
Yeah.
So that's the cool thing about Carolina basketball. It's just the fans are so passionate and remember it. And we've been so good for so long. So it's just, I do try to remind myself sometimes, when I'm there, like, man, you just enjoy it in the moment and just know that it's just not like this everywhere else. So, or maybe nowhere else, to be honest. So,
yeah, it's awesome. All right. We got 3 out of our last 5 at home, which is nice. Now, the 2 road games, very, very challenging. Very likely we could take 2 or we could lose 2. We could split. I think it's up in the air. Who knows? Because at UVA, at Duke, very challenging games. Well, we got 5 left. I'm gonna put you on the spot. You can say 5-0, which I'll go 5-0. But what do you think realistically? We got to go to Virginia. We got Miami at home. We got NC State at home, which, by the way, just got a massive win. That was an incredibly entertaining game at Clemson. I watched every play of it last night. Notre Dame at home, and then at Duke. So those are the 5. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, I think based on what I saw yesterday, and assuming that if we get a week to kind of work on us and get everybody back, somewhat healthy. I mean, at this point in the season, that you're not going to be fully healthy. It's just no team's going to be.
Everybody's dealing with stuff.
Exactly. But I think everybody can get their treatment. They'll have plenty of time to kind of sleep in their own beds, until they'll probably go up on Saturday or maybe Friday night. But they're taking a bus there to go to Virginia. They're not getting on a plane. It's a whole different type issue of travel. So I think I really feel confident we'll go up to Virginia and win. I think we're going to win that game. Honestly, a little more worried about the Miami game because if that's a Monday night, so we're going to come back home, play Miami on Monday night, and Miami's probably looking at that game that we played them down there like, man, we had a chance. Well, they've got to have the game to get to, but also they're like, man, we could have beat these guys. Probably should have. We just needed to know the 30 seconds of game time. So I'm a little worried about that one. I think we win UVA, and then State, rivalry game. They're going to come in. They're actually back on the bubble now. So that's, it just, people were down on the ACC, but you start looking at the schedule and the games and the way they line up. Every team that we've played, it's this second half of the ACC is kind of on that bubble, or it's a team like Virginia or Duke, which is a top team, one of the top teams in the country. So I say 4-1. I don't know if it'll be. Duke is looking really good. They've kind of gone under the radar since we've played them. I think they did a good job of kind of going off that loss and knowing that they didn't play very well and that they had to step up their defense if they were going to be a team that, was going to be good. And they've done it. So I think 4-1, I think it's a close game, but we probably dropped that one in Cameron at the end. But hopefully Duke will lose a game or 2 before that, so that doesn't keep us from being number 1 in the ACC.
Yeah, that'll put us at 16-4, and I'd take that all day long. So I'll take 4-1 as well. I had it the other way. I fear the Virginia game, and I had us running the table after that. So, but we'll see. Hopefully we go 5-0, and you and I are both wrong.
Right. That's exactly. So.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you, man, coming on and tapping in on the secondary break and subbing in for Zach. We got to get you back sometime, man. We'll do the 3 of us hop on and just chop it up.
Love to, man. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. So.